Yeah. I'm supposed to sync up. I'm supposed to say shit internet apologists say over the animation. Well, that went great.
Good first attempt.
Yes.
Carefully
You'll
led
get it on
you.
the next one.
Warts and all. That is our philosophy for this show.
The sound effects were just, oof. Those are rough.
Yeah. Yeah. maybe tone down that a little bit. But 2 weeks ago, I only got through like half the article on the American Atheist Convention. But there's just new stuff being submitted all the time. So this week's entry was submitted by... Wait.
Wait for it.
Failing to credit that person. And now my computer is making noises. All right. This is a failure. No. Wait, I have it up. It's at Skeptic Mom. One of my favorite people on Twitter. Hello, Skeptic Mom.
Yay.
Who submitted a lovely piece from the reliable source, The Christian Post. ChristianPost.com. By Christian Post contributor Dan Delzell, who has a very grave concern he would like to bring to your attention. Will America's public grade schools become transgender mills?
I watched you flip past that article a couple of times when you were changing tabs, and I was hoping we were going to get to that one.
I was hanging on to that one. I'll tell you what.
Okay.
Everyone's got an agenda.
Well, yes. Talking about what people are trying to sell you, I can't wait to see where this goes. Last month, I wrote about the sudden phenomenon of transgender children.
Already, I'm disagreeing, but okay.
I don't disagree. He did write about that last month. There's a link and everything. This is the segment where as soon as you hear something that makes your head explode, then you jump in and say,
blurt right in.
Yeah, sudden phenomenon.
Yeah.
That's one way to put it. I mean, trans people have always existed, and just because they were suppressed and told not to express the traits of their gender doesn't mean that they were not trans. It just means that they were conditioned to hide it, and which is really bad for your mental health. I don't know if you noticed.
Got to be real healthy to.
Yeah.
Well, sadly, the dangerous new trend is breathing down the necks
Literally
of public
every
grade school of grade school children across the country. For example, a mom in California recently broke down at a school board meeting when describing how her 5-year-old daughter was in a kindergarten classroom when a teacher read a book explaining how her classmates switched from a boy to a... People can actually see my scare quotes. I'm on camera.
Dun, dun, dun.
Girl.
Literally almost every other word that has come out of your mouth so far have been like,
Let it all out, EJ.
Yeah.
Oh, God, how do you even start? Okay, so a mom breaking down.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that trans people scare you so much, but that sounds like a you problem, not like a trans people problem. And I bet her daughter wasn't upset at all.
She's not, but I'm sure the mom thinks it all has to do with the little nether bits, and kids aren't supposed to know about those.
Why
even
are
though
people
they have
so
them.
obsessed with children's genitalia?
I don't know.
I don't even have like good responses to this because I'm just like I just want to scream like
just kind of a
the whole
sputter.
time, but that doesn't make good.
Right.
That doesn't make for good radio.
Yes, I've written responses like, "Gee, anything I can say just rapidly turns into a stream of invective."
Yeah,
it's like,
The elite charter school in a Sacramento suburb was subsequently engulfed in a bitter controversy when some outraged parents reported their 5-year-olds came home that day traumatized, confused, and fearful they might turn into the opposite sex. According to the California Family Council, 90 children were pulled from the school by their parents as a result of the controversy. The headlines should maybe be parents. Is there an epidemic of parents being whiny babies?
Parents overreact to the idea of trans people existing and read their kids' lack of knowledge about it as trauma.
Well, if what they said was true, though, that the kids somehow got the idea that, I'm going to spontaneously change, that could be fearful making. Yeah. I mean,
the thing is, kids aren't naturally prejudicial. If these children were so upset and traumatized and confused by the notion of trans people existing, 5, I think it said.
Oh, yeah,
if these
5.
Kids are so upset
5-year-olds do not
at
care.
This, it means that their parents have been telling them that trans people are scary and evil, and that trans people are coming to hurt you in the bathrooms. That's why those kids are scared, not because they're so scared of the notion of trans people existing.
That's not what the article's saying. It's not talking about trans people existing. It's talking about they're afraid of being arbitrarily changed in sex.
I'm being a little bit
That's something to be afraid of.
But it's not.
How did they get that idea?
It either means that the teacher didn't explain it correctly, or that their parents have been telling them what trans is in a way that is fear-mongering, and that has given them a scary idea of what.
I suspect it's more on the parents' side, misunderstanding and misinterpreting what's going on. But hey, I'm not a parent, so I can't speak except in ignorance.
Right. I mean, the sense of panic that I see, and I don't know, this may not. Sorry. When I hear Christians ranting about the horrors of homosexuality, for instance, on a tangential topic, I hear the argument a lot, if you're allowed to be gay, then what's going to stop people from having all the gay sex they want? And it's no judgment. I am a straight guy. I am having all the gay sex I want.
Right.
It just happens to be zero.
Happens to be zero.
I have a lot of very close, good friends who are gay men and gay women, and I totally feel like anytime I wanted to, I could go searching for gay sex, which is not to say that people would would be into me.
Right.
But it doesn't scare me even a little bit that I could be having some.
Right.
I'm not interested.
As long as it's between consenting adults and done with full knowledge and everybody's comfortable, who cares?
Right.
The obsession with other people's sex lives, other people's genitalia, other people's hormone levels, how other people are dressing, get over yourself. Let people exist and be comfortable as they are. This shit gets heated.
Meanwhile, a policy proposal in Delaware states that all students enrolled in a Delaware public school may self-identify gender or race. And this means children as young as 5 would be permitted to choose their own race and gender identity without approval from their parents.
Huh. Interesting.
Okay.
That's cool. It's like
you don't choose your gender.
That's not how that
good
works. They view it more like just I'm creating my alt character for a role playing game. What?
I don't know. This is less of a fear of sexuality thing. I mean, it is that, but it's also a control freak thing right now. Ben went through a phase where he was thinking that maybe there was a God. And I was like, well, I don't think so, but you do you.
Knock yourself out.
He grew out of it.
Yeah.
And they may or may not grow out of the thing, or they may decide that to stick with that, or they may not. But like throwing a fit is probably not going to change that. I feel like I'm probably gonna make a bunch of terrible metaphors. Since, okay. Sorry.
So no, you're fine. Okay. The thing that makes me most upset about stories like this is not the parents getting mad about like trans stuff, but it's the knowing that at least there's got to be at least one or two of their kids, of these parents who are freaking out, pulling them from the school or whatever, of those kids who are trans and who are learning trans is a bad thing, and my parents think it's a bad thing, they will react badly. And so just knowing the trauma in those kids' future, because growing up with parents who don't understand trans issues for trans children is horrible, because they end up being, you know, parents refusing to call them by their chosen name, parents refusing to call them by the correct pronouns, parents getting upset with them for dressing in the way that makes them feel comfortable, parents kicking them out of the house for daring to be a trans person. Like, that's what makes me the most upset about these kinds of stories, is knowing that at least there's got to be, just statistically, at least one of those kids who got pulled out of the school by their parents because of this teacher reading a book about a trans person, at least one of them is trans. And that kid is going to have a hard life with parents like that unless those parents get educated and learn and grow and accept their kid. Like, it just makes me really sad thinking about kind of the future of those children and where they're going to go in life and what their lives are going to be like, because trans people have it rough. Like, just, you know, you can look at statistics on violence and mental health issues and things like that, but even just in the daily life, like, just, you know, I get misgendered repeatedly every single day. You know, I have like my friends who care about me and who know and who try their best still occasionally will use the incorrect pronouns, and that's not their fault. I understand that it can be a difficult thing to adjust, especially for the people who knew me before I started using they them pronouns. But it's just every single day I get ma'am, I get miss, and it just wears on you. It's like the water dropping on the stone, and it just wears away and wears away and wears away. And just knowing that these kids are going to live their lives, and their lives aren't going to be hard because they're trans. Their lives are going to be hard because of the way people react to them being trans. You know, that's what makes me the most upset about this kind of article. Sorry, that kind of went a little darker than I think the tone of this is usually, but, you know.
No, this sometimes gets pretty dark. There are some bad shit that happens in these things. I mean, whether it's people seriously arguing that there's about gender roles and how it's cool for people to force themselves on other people, or like consent is a dumb idea. That's just the way this goes sometimes.
Some disgusting people out there.
I've skimmed over several paragraphs now.
I'm seeing a little bit of biological essentialism in there, so that's fun too.
But I'm going to bypass that paragraph. Encouraging kids to impersonate the opposite sex is extremely unwise.
Literally every word in that sentence.
The Wall Street Journal cited the largest study of its kind concerning those who have had sex reassignment surgery and found that they are almost 20 times more likely to commit suicide than the rest of the population. This 30-year study in Sweden involved 324 people.
And completely ignore the factors of why that might be, and that it maybe it isn't anything to do with them like being able to live as they are, but all of the shit that comes with it. But, you know, forget that.
Oh, hey, your home country, or ish. An expert in Australia counsels children who, in spite of the risks, think it is trendy and cool to be transgender. Stephen Stathis runs a gender clinic in Brisbane and says, many youth are trying out being transgender in order to stand out. Some of them will most likely end up receiving puberty-blocking chemicals and or sex change hormone treatment as part of a new government-funded gender service in Australia.
What reality do these people live in? Well, okay. Fun side note, I love the way that you pronounced Brisbane, but...
Brisbane. Yes, I know.
So, okay. Trans as trendy. I'm sure you can find somebody out there who has tried, like, oh, I'm trans, like, to be cool or whatever. Because that's how kids and teenagers and preteens are. But being trans is fucking hard. Like, you don't do that to be cool, because it sucks. Trans kids get bullied. Trans kids get hurt and abused. And it's not easy. And it's not something anybody does to be cool. And it's like the same people with people who are like, oh, you're gay because it's trendy now. Like, it's cool to be gay. It's cool to be bi. And it's like, people would kill me for the identities that I hold. I'm not doing it to be trendy. This is who I am. And the very fact that I can stand here and say that is, not to toot my own horn, kind of an act of bravery, because I know that there are going to be comments on this that are like, what's this SJW bullshit? I identify as a patch attack helicopter. Like, that, just saying that out loud on the internet is an act of bravery, and sometimes it scares me shitless to like be visible in the way that I am.
Right.
Like, even just the way that I dress, I am a visibly queer person, and knowing that if I were to run into the wrong person, that person would harm me because of who I am, because of what I look like, because of who I date, and how I wish to be referred to. And the idea that people would do it because it's cool or trendy and they want to stand out just infuriates me to no end, because it's like, first of all, even if they are, the only thing that is going to do is cause them harm. And like, it's not going to cause them harm because trans is a bad thing. It's going to cause them harm because of the way that people react to trans, to trans people. Like, it just...
It seems to be a common argument in a lot of places that you are... It's a really condescending assertion that whatever it is you're saying or doing or talking about must be for attention.
Yeah.
If I can circle back to in a careful way to the topic we didn't bring up earlier in the show, there seem to be a lot of people who say that if you're a woman saying that you were sexually assaulted at some point, you must be doing it for the money, fame, and glory, which is like, oh my God, what makes you think that happened?
Yeah,
I can't think of any examples where somebody's life got better for telling a story, true or not, telling a story about being raped or assaulted or harassed or anything.
And you know what? If there are kids out there who are like, oh, I'm trans because it's trendy, I don't fucking care if that's why they are identifying as trans in that moment. There are enough people out there who identify as trans because that is who they are, that one or two kids identifying as trans because it's trendy, I don't care. I would so much rather tell that kid, you know, that's great. Like, I support you in the identity that you are using in this moment to describe yourself. And if you decide later on that label no longer fits you, I support you in that too. Like, I would so much rather support all of the trans people who deserve support and deserve to be treated well.
Right.
And then worry about one or two who are quote unquote faking it to be cool. Yeah. Like,
it's like you want to be, I want to be handicapped because they have the best parking spaces. It's like, wait, no.
Yeah, it's... People sometimes have their heads so far up their asses.
All right. We're going along with this thing. I'm jumping down to the last couple of paragraphs.
I have a lot to say about it. I'm sorry.
That's what we're... Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good stuff to say about it.
The transgender fad hurts children psychologically and physically, and it leaves many of those who dabble with it scarred for life. The fact that it's trendy doesn't make it less toxic.
Does he have a shred of evidence for that?
Telling the truth about gender is what will prevent America's public grade schools from becoming transgender mills. After all, parents do not send their children to school to get indoctrinated with gender myths that contradict biology and human anatomy.
There's the biological symbolism again.
Young people...
I don't even want to get into the conversation of like how wrong he is about so many things in this.
Young people face enough fear and anxiety in our world today without their grade school teachers frightening them with stories of transgender experiments on children. Whoa. Wait.
Wow.
What was the original topic? Yeah. Well, and that's that. Oh, geez.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just a link to a video of presumably of some parent.
Flood of ignorance. Yeah.
Okay.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
The part where he said that it harms children psychologically and physically, the psychological harm that many trans people deal with comes from other people being terrible to them. It's not because they are trans that is causing the psychological damage. And I think the argument that he was making with it physically is that, puberty blocking hormones are dangerous. And the problem is we don't have a lot of studies about trans health because trans people have been ignored in the medical field for so long that we don't know kind of the long-term effects of a lot of things. And like we can guesstimate. And, you know, there are some increased risks of like osteoporosis on puberty blockers and things like that. And that's important to talk about. But for a kid who either the choice is they go on puberty blockers and then they are able to transition successfully, like the option is that kid is not allowed to transition, grows secondary sex characteristics that make them uncomfortable and dysphoric, and they face hatred for coming out later in life that then damages them even more psychologically.
Right.
Like, the rates for trans people committing suicide or attempting suicide are so astronomically high, and it's not because they're trans, it's because of the way trans people are treated. I would rather have a trans kid who gets osteoporosis than kills themselves. Like, I'm sorry, that's just... Yeah. That to me is a pretty easy trade-off to make. Like, I would rather them not get osteoporosis to start with, and I wish there were more long-term studies on the effects of puberty blockers and hormones. But I would so much rather a trans kid be able to make the choice and say, you know what, I'm okay with these side effects because it means that I'm going to be more comfortable in my body.
Yeah, but they'd much rather have a self-fulfilling prophecy of the suicide rate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Apparently, the book was called I Am Jazz. It's on Amazon and has 4.5 stars overall. And I bet the whatever 1-star reviews they have would be hilarious. But I don't know. Apparently, it's also a TV reality show.
Yeah, Jazz. I think her last name is Jennings. She came out very, very young and was like very visibly kind of did her transition and has been in a lot of documentaries and stuff, and then got her own show on TLC, I think it is.
Okay.
And she's been kind of like a vocal trans advocate for like young trans people who transition early, because she transitioned very early, like much earlier than like the average transition age, and so she's been kind of a public figure. So
got it.